Beautiful people, this is Studio Visitor, the podcast where we talk about gear philosophy and history in European music studios. Normally I do the introduction from my own studio, but not this time, because gear is what we're talking about. I can't say I can't say how proud I am to opening the doors of one of the finest manufacturers of outboard equipment, because I'm at Tegeler Audio in Berlin, Germany.
Yeah.
Next to me is Gabriel. Welcome to the channel.
Thank you.
Thanks for your hospitality and having me over here.
It's a pleasure. Yeah, you're always welcome at Tegeler. And for anyone who's watching, if you guys want to visit us, we're always open for visitors. And it's honestly a really interesting visit, I must say.
Let's start at the beginning. The director, Michael, he woke up one day and he decided, I'm going to start a company and I'm going to produce outboard, the finest outboard gear.
Yeah.
Is that how it happened, or?
A little bit like that. Basically, I think the Tegeler story is very closely related to the Germany story. Basically, our founder, Michael Krusch, he's a resident, an original Berliner, but he was from East Berlin. So back in the day, Berlin was divided by the wall, and it was much harder for him in East Berlin to get the equipment that he wanted to get to enjoy and to produce some of the electronic music that he was into. He was an electronic music enthusiast in East Germany, and he wanted to start producing stuff, and he didn't have any equipment. So then he started to research and to go around the electronic stores to get the components for everything that he wanted to create, and started first creating his first electronic devices. And many years after that, eventually he created the Creme, and that was the first Tegeler device. But it all started with a desire of our founder Michael Krusch to create devices for his own productions. And it all started with the limitation that he had, that he couldn't really get these devices back then. Nowadays things are different, but if it wasn't for this difficulty, if it wasn't for these difficulties back then, maybe there would be no Tegeler, or Tegeler would be a very different company.
Yeah.
So
it's unthinkable at these times, but the Berlin Wall, still part of it standing in the city, and Checkpoint Charlie, where you went from east to west.
Yeah.
But how harsh that time was for someone like Michael to get the right equipment for doing a proper recording. That was unthinkable in these days.
Yeah. It's and then I think we now as a company, Tegeler, we try to make our devices as how would I say that? We want to give everybody the opportunity to produce their music with the best tools possible. For example, Misha, he had his own experience not being able to source these devices in his early days. I personally, like I told you, I'm originally from Brazil, and I also understand how hard it is sometimes to be in a market where it's a little hard to get the devices that you want. And that is also one of our company goals, to make sure that we make it as possible for people to have the Tegeler devices, I would say.
As possible as possible. I really like that. So, the first product hit the market. That was the Creme, and that's basically a combination of a passive EQ and a VCA compressor.
That's right.
How was that working for Michel at the time?
Basically, the Creme, it is the first device we created, and I think it makes perfect sense because it's a very versatile device. Basically, you can compress any signal with it. It is perfect for the main bus, of course, but you can use it on vocals. You can use it on synth tracks, you can use it on drums, and on top of that you have the equalizer section, the passive equalizer, where you can give some really nice low and high boosts or cuts. And I would say that's why the Creme is maybe our most versatile device, and that's why I think it makes sense that it was the first one, because basically it works for every genre. We have rock producers, electronic music producers, hip hop, bossa nova, whatever, really, because it really is a very versatile tool. A very transparent device, which means you can use it for very harmonic signals, but also not for some not so harmonic signals like drums. It basically shines a lot on drums, on the main bus.
About anything.
About anything. The Creme is. We not all our devices are like that. We have some devices that are more oriented towards a specific ends, but the Creme is definitely one of those guys. Like whatever you throw at it.
How do you know by any chance how he got the idea for this? Out of his personal needs, or
it was a little bit his personal needs, and it was also the thing is, if you think about it, there's not really a device quite like the Creme.
No.
There are many amazing VCA compressors that are not made by Tegeler. There are many passive equalizers not made by Tegeler, but the Creme is a passive equalizer with a VCA compressor, and I think the idea really came from Misha. He not just the Creme, but every Tegeler device, we try to make it in a way that we offer something that doesn't exist yet. And the Creme there is no such thing as the Creme, right? And then after creating the Creme, it gets a little more complicated to find things that don't exist and create it.
We'll get later on.
Yeah.
Hitting the market with the first product was quite a success for the company. But then you need to grow the company.
Yeah.
And I think the first sales start here in Germany, but
yes,
growing the company.
And
the company exists.
The company exists for over 10 years, and I've been here for almost 3 years now. And in these almost 3 years, I have basically my goal as I started here. Like I was part of an intention that Tegeler has to become a more international company, a more well-known company, not just because we want to grow big, but because we have space to grow big. And I think the world is very big as well. And
a lot of possibilities.
And yeah, so I try to create the bridge between Tegeler, which is a very German company, and the rest of the world. I try to make it very easy and simple for people from all over the world to reach us and to get our devices. So my actual task, this is the nice description of it, but the actual boring work I have to do is to research distributors and to understand the markets, and most importantly, understand what are the different needs in different places. The needs of the German market are not the same needs as the Indian market, which are also not the same needs as the Australian market or the Brazilian market or the Mexican market. They are all very different, and we need to see what they need and then provide them with what they need. And I think the biggest challenge we have when growing is, of course, people who don't know us, developing a relationship of trust between Tegeler and the industry and the audio producers. And of course, there's always the numerical part, the taxes situation all over the world, the customs. But this is the boring talk that we don't need to go too much into.
You said you're responsible for international growth, but there is quite some change in the brand itself. It used to be Tegeler Audio Manufacturer, but it's now restricted to Tegeler.
That's right. Yeah, basically, we started to realize that a lot of clients and enthusiasts from over the world, they couldn't pronounce Tegeler Audio Manufacturer, so we decided to just call it Tegeler, and that came around the same time as we decided to change our image a little bit. So we took green as our main color. None of these devices here are green yet, because we also try to be environmentally conscious and not throw away hundreds of front plates just because they have an old logo or an old color on it.
I'll take them all for free.
You can have some if you want. And yeah, but then it's basically we're going green, literally.
Yeah.
We're simplifying our name. We're now Tegeler, not Tegeler Audio Manufacturer. Our website is more streamlined as well. Our Instagram account is more streamlined. Basically, all our channels and all our ways of communicating with the end customer have become more simplified in order to make everyone see that we are a company that we are here for whatever your needs are. Does
it make growing the company more easy, or?
I would say it's
a little bit?
It is a double-sided knife, because on one side, it is easier, I guess, with a simplified brand, it is a little bit easier to explain to people who and what we are. We are Tegeler from Germany, and we're making the best possible gear we can. We are destroying the difference between analog and digital. But at the same time, we did already have a loyal client base, and some of them are really on board and like, yeah, let's go for the new logo and the new images. And some of them are not so interested in that. Some of them like to keep the old stuff. So we have to. There's always different opinions.
You're with the company now for 3 years. What's the hardest part of growing the company?
But our biggest problem is to identify where our customers are, where our potential customers are, what their needs are. And the world is very big, and there's very different audio producers.
But this is a niche product.
It is a niche product, but it's the niche market in Germany is not the same niche market in the US.
No.
And it's not the same niche market in China. And so I would say that is the hardest part, to understand all these markets. And but to help us with that, we have a lot of international partners that they understand their markets better than us.
Yeah.
But I would say that is the hardest part.
Once I explained to a software developer, understand this. I come from Holland. Holland, the country, it's not bigger than the city of New York. So don't expect us to do more sales than the city of New York. And he was like, what are you telling me?
Yeah, but it's true. It is true. Like but we try to treat every partner and every dealer and every potential client with the same amount of respect. Doesn't matter if it's our neighbor here in Berlin or if it's a client 10,000 kilometers away who really needs a device.
You don't see that much, by the way.
You don't see that, but it's really complicated, because sometimes, of course, if we have a customer who is in a different continent, there are complications to get a Tegeler device to them. So our job is to destroy these difficulties, right? Which is a complicated job. Our main enemy is always the customs offices.
Yeah, sure. Products are held by customs.
It happens, and unfortunately, there is one thing that we see, especially in the markets where we wish we could be the most present. That's the most complicated markets to enter because of taxes situations.
Name one example.
My homeland of Brazil is very complicated. For example, South America in general, Africa. There are many. For example, the Nollywood situation in Nigeria. There is a huge market. It's growing. There is thousands probably of audio producers in Nigeria who are, I'm sure they're interested in having some of our devices. It is not that easy to get our devices in Nigeria or in Brazil as it is getting them in the Netherlands or in Germany. But we are working on ways to make it. Our ultimate goal is to make it as easy for a Nigerian or for a Brazilian or for a Vietnamese person to have a device as it is for a German, for a Dutch, for an American customer.
We're talking about your products. The first product we already described was the Creme. After that, there came another box.
Yeah. So roughly we had first the Creme, then we had the EQP1. The EQP1 is a very versatile device as well. It's a dual mono tube passive equalizer.
With or without tubes?
Say again?
With or without tubes?
With tubes. The Creme is a passive equalizer without tubes, but the EQP1 is a tube passive equalizer. So it has tubes, which means you will have, of course, this really nice, the filters themselves are amazing, but on top of that, in the very end, you have this extra harmonics that the tubes bring, which the Creme, for example, the Creme doesn't do that. And the Creme went in a different direction. We wanted it to be as transparent as possible. With the EQP1, we started having very colorful devices. So now we have some devices that are very transparent, like the Creme, or like, for example, the MIF VCA, the MIF VCA, or the vocal leveler. And we have some very colorful devices, like the EQP1, like the very tube compressor, which will also bring a lot of color into our device, into our signal. And the magnetisms too, which is a VCA compressor, a transient shaper, a saturator, very, very colorful. So the Creme was our first device, then came the EQP, then the very tube compressor, then we had the Magnetismus 1, then the Magnetismus 1 doesn't exist anymore, now we have the Magnetismus 2, and then we had, like I told you, the Schwerkraftmaschine.
For those that don't understand German, Schwerkraft is like gravity.
Yes, the Schwerkraftmaschine is the gravity machine, but if you cannot pronounce Schwerkraftmaschine, you can just say SKM. I think maybe that's easier for some people. So the SKM, it's an 11 compressor in one device. Basically has
digitally controlled by a plugin.
Digitally controlled by a plugin. Although most of these modes are completely analog. The
circuitry is analog, but it's controlled digitally.
But it's controlled digitally. Although some of the modes are actually digital. For example, the de-esser mode is a digital mode. The Schwerkraftmaschine, the SKM, was the first device that was plug-in controllable, which means once you buy it, you can actually control all the knobs and switches through a plug-in, which you control easily with an Ethernet cable. Yeah. We chose to use Ethernet instead of USB, for example, because it's a much more stable connection, and because the USB connection in a big studio, if you have a long connection of more than 5 meters, then you start to have very serious connection issues, which you don't have with Ethernet.
Now they can store the machine itself in a machine room.
Yeah, they don't have to have it near the control room at all.
Biggest studios you see that happening.
Yeah.
Was in Lucerne, Soundville Media Studios. Yeah. They had like 2 lexicon verbs. The machines were in the machine room, but only the controls were out.
But that makes sense. I mean, because with that, of course, you can still also have it right next to your monitor if you want, so that if you want to have it visible. But
you only need the control.
But you only need the control. So with the RC devices, the remote controllable devices, they add this versatility to the clients. They can basically now not only they can keep it in the machine room, but they can also recall their scenes. They can automate their parameters. So
11 type of compression.
That's right.
Let's say dynamics, because you already described the essence.
Yes,
what to you yourself? What's the most special mode?
Oof, they are different modes for different ends, right? The Veritube compressor mode is amazing, just like the Veritube device.
To me, that's like the heavy weight of compression. It's like the Huggy Bear that said,
it's hard to compete with a Veritube, right? It's very musical, very very harmonic, very colorful. It adds that extra layer of varnish. However, if you have a drum bus, you might not like the results you're gonna get from a Veritube compressor. So for that, I really like the drum smasher mode. There is a drum smasher mode in the Schwerkraftmaschine. I love that one. The Veritube compressor mode is very good. Another one that I think is really nice. I do like the opto compressor mode as well.
I like opto compressor.
And what else? I think those 3. If I have to choose, I would say those 3.
The rest I can skip.
The rest they're all amazing, but they're suitable for different needs.
By the success of the Schwerkraft machine, I think you people realized that having a plugin to control analog outboard gear is becoming kind of mandatory.
Yeah. I don't know if mandatory is the word, but it's a little bit like when cell phones first showed up, they didn't have internet, right?
No.
And eventually there was one that had internet capabilities, and nowadays every phone has internet. So I think
computer.
So yes. So I think we're going in that direction. There will always be, of course, a space for analog devices without remote control.
Sure.
Just like there is still space for cell phones without internet, but the space is getting smaller.
Yeah.
So I think basically the analog audio world it will always exist because the electronics behind it. Anyone who understands a little more about the plugins, they will see that it's very hard, and I might dare to say impossible, to make a plugin that sounds exactly like an electronic circuit.
We had this conversation up front. We need to stop doing this. Yeah. You know, plugins and hardware both are fine. Yeah. They are tools with their own purpose, and they serve a specific goal. Use them whatever you would like to.
Yeah, but for example, with the RC devices, It's exactly that. If you want to have an analog device because you need that analog sound for whatever reason, or just because, of course, the EQP sounds great, or then you can have an RC device, and then you have an analog device with the analog sound, but you use it in your workflow exactly like a plugin. So that is
to me that's a little bit. Doesn't matter what kind of genre you're producing. It's like the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
That little shine.
Yeah.
That can make a difference.
100%. But at the same time, for example, in the audio industry, unlike the cell phone industry, I think the audio industry is a little bit more diverse because there are customers of ours, for example, who use the Creme as a front of house main bus compressor.
Okay.
For example.
Yeah, well, I can imagine on the master bus, sure, why
you know
not?
what I mean? So in that situation, for example, is it that necessary to have a remote control? So in that situation, so we had, for example, the live audio engineer of the band Sepultura, Conrado Ruther. He's a friend of ours, and he uses the Tegeler devices, and he does have a Creme RC, but that's not the one he uses the most live because he doesn't need it that much. You know, he already has some settings that he uses on the Creme, and then he puts it there for his main bus, and he's ready to go. So I think the analog, the non-RC devices, there will still be some people who would like to have them, but we want to. The ultimate goal is to make as many RC devices as possible. However, there are limitations. For example, getting the microchips. Every motorized potentiometer needs a microchip. When I got here at Tegeler 3 years ago, we were in the middle of a big complication to source those from all around the world. I think there was a global chip shortage that lasted a while, and we're still getting the aftermath of that. And so that is one of the reasons why the next Tegeler device that will be RC, that's why it hasn't been developed yet. We are developing new RC devices. They are being released in the future. But we cannot go as fast as we can because we need these microchips. So there are still limitations. And if we simply use different potentiometers, like let's say for example with digital encoders, which we do not do, we prefer to use motorized potentiometers. That would be more expensive. That would mean that we would need a different circuit to be developed.
But you leave that for competitive brands like Bettermaker and West Audio.
Exactly. The option is there if there are clients who prefer to have a device that is remotely controllable with a digital encoder. There are options. You know, there are, like you said, Bettermaker and West Audio, and I think Elysia might have something. But
are these competitions to you, or competitors to you, or you don't see it that way?
I mean, it is an interesting scenario in the audio industry because they are our competitors, but they are also our compatimates because they know about us, we know about them, we see each other on the fairs, and I don't think there will ever be an audio engineer who wants to only have Tegeler devices.
No.
Or who wants to only have West Audio devices, or who wants to have only the Neve device.
It always has been like that.
Right?
You want this kind of compressor, you want an 1176 by you.
Exactly. So I think there is a lot of space for collaboration. Sometimes we cannot really sell stuff together, because we are different companies.
Yeah.
But we know for a fact that many of our devices, they go really well, they pair really well with devices made by other companies.
Sure, why not?
And I would even tell some, but I don't want to give them free advertising. But basically,
no, we don't do that.
I mean, not for free. But yeah, I think there is a space for everyone. And first of all, the audio industry is very big, and the world is very big. And me personally, here at Tegeler, whenever that's one thing I've always tried to do since I'm here. Whenever I see that there's no more space to grow, like we're talking a lot about growth, then I look for other spaces where we can grow.
Sure.
For example, new markets, or for example, one thing that I am particularly proud of, since I started working here at Tegeler, we have now an educational program. So basically, anyone who is a student, doesn't matter where in the world, if you're a student, anywhere in the world, you can get a Tegeler device with 30% discount, just like that. So we try to do that to make sure that, because I once was a broke student, and I know how bad it is to want to have stuff and not be able to.
After all the development, at some certain point, you people decided reverberation is not done problem. There's a lot of debate. Let me cut to the chase. There's a lot of debate. Reverberation should be done in the box, yes or no. But you people decided, yeah, we would like to build a box for it, and we do with the RC thing, so it's remoteable control.
That's right. Yeah, that will be that little girl here, the Raumzeitmaschine.
Raumzeit. Translated into English, Raum means space, Zeit is time. So space-time machine.
That's right. That's the space-time machine.
So you go up to Mars?
Yeah, I mean, honestly though, we do. How would I say that? With the Raumzeitmaschine, you can get some very ethereal sound, which will definitely make you feel like you're in outer space. The Raumzeitmaschine, we are very proud of it. It's one of our analog digital hybrid devices.
Yeah.
Basically, the Raumzeitmaschine has two tubes on the input stage, and then from these two tubes, the signal gets digitalized. There's an algorithm calculating the reverb and delivering the reverb, and then after that, there's another two tubes on the output stage, tubes and transformers as well. So the algorithm was very carefully designed to produce the best possible reverberation. However,
only one type reverb?
Say again?
It's only one type?
There's only one kind. It's the Raumzeitmaschine reverb. There's only one kind. You can change the pre-delay times, you can change the size, but it's to the same reverb. But then the thing about the Raumzeitmaschine is the actual algorithm is very well designed, but then with the tubes on the input and the output stage, you get this extra analog harmonics, which will really... They would really make you feel the sound sounds much more immersive and natural.
Because a little shine on the high end.
Exactly, and not just a shine. A lot of times with reverb plugins, you get this shine that sounds
metallic.
They sound like
resonance,
unnatural, right?
Yeah, because of resonance.
Exactly, and with the tubes, it's a little bit of a trick. We're tricking our brains with some natural harmonic created by a tube. But it works, and it's a very beautiful sounding reverb. Now we also have the Raummaschine, the space machine, which is the little sister of the Raumzeitmaschine, which is basically just the algorithm of the Raumzeitmaschine in a plugin form.
Moving on to plugins, talking about plugins, how big is the competition between you hardware people and plugins? Because this era of making music is dominated by digital audio workstations, laptop computer studios. Yeah,
I think it's we know, like, we are all, everybody who works here, we are also audio people, right? So we produce our own stuff. We all own plugins ourselves.
For sure.
So we know that it is a competition, but we believe that they are different things, really. And if there are people who would rather do everything, all of their productions in the box, they can do that. Of course, they can try the Raummaschine in that case. But I think we don't really focus on the plugins as competition.
Like I said before, we need to stop comparing this.
Yeah. So we are a plugin company ourselves. Like, we make the Raummaschine, and on top of the Raummaschine, we also make plugins for our remote controllable devices, right?
But that's still hardware.
That's still hardware. But we also make plugins for the devices that are not remotely controllable. You can download a plugin that will have the front plate there, and you can dial in your settings instead of taking a picture. So there's no audio being processed there, but basically that is one demonstration of how we are using the plugins to our advantage.
I was visiting Chris at Peak Studios. He's in Würzburg, south of Germany. And he did my master, and after that it was taking pictures of everything.
Yeah, exactly. It still happens, and if you have a Tegeler device, you can of course still take pictures, but we try to make it not necessary anymore.
Like we talked before, the company is in a kind of transitioning phase. What are the plans for the future?
Yeah. So yeah, we are in a transitioning phase. Basically, we are going from Tegeler audio manufacturer to Tegeler. We now have 500 series devices. We now have a plug-in device, and we are expanding our remote controllable devices. So our plans for the future is to continue our current plan, which is to become more versatile, even to have more of our devices in RC, to make it even easier for our potential clients and our established clients to get the Tegeler devices, to use them, to demo them for free without buying them even. That is also one of the things that we want to keep doing, and to continue destroying this division between analog and digital that is still there.
Yeah.
So I would say that our biggest plans are to continue doing the work we've been doing so far. I think we are happy with the directions we have, and it's going well. We're getting a good response, and we believe in the goal we have.
Yeah, you mean response from your actual clients?
Yes.
How's that feedback working for you?
We take that. Basically, we have two options in this situation. We can take our clients' feedback very seriously, or we can be very stupid. Because it would be a very bad idea to not take that into consideration, considering how much it is a niche market, how the competition, all of the things that we said. So we take our clients' feedback very, very, very seriously, which means some features in our devices change because of client feedback. I can give two quick examples. The VariTube recording channel, it has an opto compressor built in. And everybody was loving it, but some people started to write us and say, hey, I don't want to buy the VTRC just for the opto compressor. Can you maybe make it into a 500 series device or something? And that's how the vocal leveler started. The vocal leveler started by fulfilling a desire of a lot of clients of ours. The VariTube compressor, the latest version has the color compression switch. When I started working at Tegeler, we used to get a lot of emails of people saying, hey, I love the VTC, but I want it just for the color. I have a signal that does not need any compression, but I want to have that tube warmth. What can I do? And then we would say, hey, yeah, you have to ride, the attack and release a little bit, And then we decided to, in the next batch of VTCs, we just made a sidechain bypass. And once you bypass the sidechain, you have no compression being active, but you still have your signal going through the tubes. And that's how the color compression switch started. Yeah. So we basically, or for example, the next Tegeler device, which will be RC, which I'm not announcing yet, we are definitely taking our clients' feedback into consideration when deciding which one it will be. Which may or may not be the EQP one, but you didn't hear that from me.
Did you say something?
I might have, I'm not sure. But yeah, I think basically the client's feedback is everything.
Yeah. You already gave us a little tip about the EQP1 RC. Are there any products we can expect in the future? You can,
if we make a deal and you expect them in the future without a deadline, then I can tell you a lot. We are going to have a 500 series preamplifier in the near future.
I'd love to see that.
Yes, because as of right now, one thing that I don't want to say we're lacking, but there is room for improvement. The only Tegeler device with a preamplifier is the VTRC, the VariTube recording channel, and we don't have any other preamplifier. So we're soon gonna have our 500 series preamplifier. There is actually already a prototype. The prototype has already been posted on our Instagram account.
Okay.
And
look that up, please.
You can check it out. A remote controllable device is coming, maybe one, maybe more than one. Ideally, we would have all our devices remote controllable, and we have more plugins on the horizon as well.
We heard a lot about the company Tegeler. We know the products now. Some things are, I think, better more explained for everybody to understand what the products do and where they come from. They come from Berlin, Germany. Is there anything left to say to the viewers? Any message you would like to spread besides of buying your stuff?
Yeah, I would. There's one thing I would love to say, which is what we've been saying. This is not just marketing talk. we are actually an open, very open company, and we have an open door policy, and we really welcome anyone to visit us or to write us or to email us, to talk to them about their projects, to come here and have a glass of coffee, a cup of coffee, or a glass of beer. Even we're in Berlin.
No.
You know, so the thing I wanted to say the most is for everybody who follows Tegeler, or who is interested in Tegeler, don't hesitate to talk to us. We are not just a company; we are also trying to help the world be a more musical place. Really, at the end of the day, that's
music analog place.
There you go. But I think at the end of the day, that's one thing I love about the audio industry is that everybody is involved with it because of passion for music.
Sure.
Right? And that's, some days it's like, oh man, it's work. It has difficulties, but at the end of the day, what makes it worth it is the fact that we are working with music. And yeah, if you are a musician, a producer of anything, and you want to check any Tegeler device, you want to visit us, you want to hear our opinion about your mixes or whatever it is, don't hesitate. Yeah.
Don't hesitate. Don't hesitate to subscribe to my channel either. If you want to do anything with Tegeler, contact Gabriel.
There you
go. This episode is done. I can't say how proud and grateful I am that you would have me.
Of course, there.
I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.
Ciao. Nice. Very cool.